All right, everybody. I wanted to share a few more thoughts around this graph that I tweeted out the other day. And maybe you didn't see this graph if you're not on X or on Twitter. It says, but this graph shows the present value of all Lemonade customers. And what I mean by that is I calculated it by taking the total customer count and multiplying it by the estimated lifetime value of each customer. This will keep rising as both the number of customers and the profitability per customers continue to rise. So you can see the present value of all customers from Lemonade, it's been fairly flat, some sort of modest growth. And then over the last couple years, we've had a massive amount of growth in this. And this is as the customer count has been rising, as well as the estimated lifetime value, or LTV, of each customer. So go into this a little bit further. You can see that, as your customer count, top line in the model here, continues to rise. We know 2.43 million customers here as of the end of 2024. And then down here in line, I have it on line 124 of my model, the LTV. So it's estimating the lifetime value of each customer. And it's sort of, it's based right here. I calculated based on the metrics we have in each quarter. So if you look at, say, Q4, I'm using the face value estimate numbers we have. So $388 of premium per customer, 63% gross loss ratio. I'm just using the gross loss ratio. It's 86% annual dollar retention. And as well as I'm putting in, you could argue this could be higher. I'm not going to go into it here. I don't think this is unreasonable for this metric, at least in my mind, but a 6% discount rate. So this is discounting all the future. If you look up here in the equation, all the future sort of cash flows from a cohort of customers right now, and then estimating that, hey, the present value of all those cash flows is $761. And you could calculate that per customer, because this is your premium per customer. So it's on a per customer basis. And then what I'm doing in that graph here is just taking, hey, that LTV value multiplied by the total customers, because you could basically assume all of those customers, no matter what stage of life cycle they're at, if they all have this average premium per customer, then they're going to have that much collective lifetime value as a whole group of customers. So that's what you get here in this graph here in each bar. And I'm going into a little more detail how you calculate the LTV. I've talked about this in other videos, but I'm using this equation right here shown on the side math. So that's what this all these numbers are doing here, is they're adding up your LTV, depending, if you have some similar inputs here, 388, 63%, 86%, 6% discount, you're going to get an LTV of $761, which is exactly what we have shown right there. But doing that, the math here is doing that for each quarter, and then I take a because you're going to be really lumpy quarter to quarter, I use a trailing 12-month version of that. So I just averaged that out over a 12-month span. And then you get a more sort of consistent LTV. And that's actually what I take and multiply against your total customer count. And that's what gets that down here, LTV trailing 12 months times by customer count. And then that's what we plugged into that. I think I have it on another tab here. Right here. This graph that we showed here on X, where you can see that really the sort of collective, when I talked about this in the book value video, but the collective sort of value of these customers, they don't show up in your book value, but you could maybe argue an adjusted book value metric. They could. This, this is really going to skyrocket. And then I didn't show this on X, but here I'll show you guys if I'm projecting this out 5 years span. So from the end of, we're at the end of 2024 right here, 1,389, and projecting this out to the end of 2029, we're at 9,152. So you can see, again, this is a combination of This is your customer count. I have this going out all the way to 2035, but 2029, end of 2029 here, your customers keep growing to from about 2.4 million over the next 5 years, going to nearly 5.5 million. I think that's a pretty reasonable estimate in the sort of customer count. Along with that, your LTV for your customers continues to grow here. That span that out all the way to the end of 2029. It goes from $761 per customer up to kind of $1,700 per customer. So that's also growing, and your customer count is growing. You multiply those together, you get that nice, projection where this is really scaling out. And of course, your LTV is going to keep growing. I should mention that too. Your LTV is going to keep growing because your premium per customer, where your customers start, should improve. And also your annual dollar retention for the book of business, as customers continue to cross-sell up into the car product over the next number of years, your annual dollar retention should be better. And as well as your gross loss ratio maybe even gets better for car, better overall, consistently better. And then your premium per customer, even where you're starting at, gets higher. So then your LTV gets higher, and it goes from that 700 to, that 1700 range over a 5-year span. And but it's really significant growth here. We're talking about like 9,000, or this would be $9 billion present value of all customers. And let's say 9,000. Hold on here, 9,052, and say right now we're at so the end of last year we're at 1389. So put that in 1389. And let's say that's over a 5-year span. So, hold on, if I can type 5-year span. Oh gosh, here we go. Okay, so 46%, compound annual growth in this sort of collective present value of all customers for Lemonade. 45% a year growth over the next 5 years, what we can expect as your LTV gets significantly better and as your customer count continues to grow. It's kind of interesting, actually. You could think about it right now that Lemonade's market cap is, $2.67 billion. I haven't really expanded this out too much, but say 2.67, right? And we're at, maybe we're somewhere 1,400, 1,389, something, whatever the case, 2.67. I'll say 2.67 billion market cap divided by 1,389. We're kind of like, call this 1,400. We're 1.9, kind of 2x the market cap. So our market cap, sort of our price in market cap to customer present value, if that was all capitalized, if you called that the sort of value of the business, we're 1.9 ratio. So if you went to, at this point in time, in 5-year span, we're at 9 billion, and maybe you keep that, if that ratio was still held, of course, if you're at 9 billion times by even say 1.5, well, you're talking like a $13.5 billion business, $13.5 billion business. And let's say there's a little bit of dilution in that. So back to my model here, say you have 78 million shares over that span. So say 13.5 divided by 78. Well, then you could definitely argue, like, in 5 years, maybe it should be worth $173 a share, just based on this metric. If you multiplied it by the same ratio we're at right now, and you could almost argue, hey, it's still undervalued right now. Maybe it should be worth 3 times the price it is. So it should be like a 1.9 times 3, whatever that is, 5.7 ratio or whatever it is. But let's say it's 1.9 in the future at 9,000 by 78 million shares. You're at maybe $219 a share in 5-year span. But again, maybe you say, well, right now it's still undervalued, even it shouldn't be maybe 2 times. Right now it should be 6 times, and maybe in the future Maybe not, they don't have as much growth ahead of them, so maybe it should be worth like 4 times or 5 times the share. Then you're at 461 a share, 576 per share. You can kind of make arguments of just based on, this sort of collective present value of all customers. Of course, there's way more in the analysis that we are looking at, but it's a sort of interesting thought experiment to think about. Hey, Lemonade's adding all these customers, continue to grow this customer base. I think pet renters are going to be just our cash cows in themselves, but also really these sort of gateway policies that will then be cross-sold and add so much value to the business over time as they keep scaling their number of customers. So it's really interesting to think about it this way, and I just wanted to share some of these thoughts, and I was pondering and share this graph with you. So I hope you find that helpful, and let me know what you think, and thank you so much for watching. Remember, it's in the bag.